Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the Three Gun Show, episode 103. I'm your host, Dave Hartman. My guest this week is Range Master of Hard as Hell Multigun, president of both Southern Utah Practical Shooters and the Tactical Performance Center, Ken Nelson, and software engineer of PractiScore, Russell Armstrong. Before we get into the interview, I want to thank you for downloading and listening to the show. The Three Gun Show is a weekly podcast dedicated to the fastest growing shooting sport, Three Gun. Each week, I bring you an exciting new episode featuring one of the many awesome personalities in Three Gun, and we talk about training, gear, match strategy, funny stories, and just generally have a great time. If you like the show, there are multiple ways of supporting the podcast, including using our affiliate links when you shop at Brownells, Amazon, Cabela's, and Optics Planet. Go to threegunshow.com/support for the links. Now, I also want to tell you that you can get your copy of the Three Gun Show match checklist free by going to threegunshow.com/checklist. Enter your email and you will receive a free PDF download that includes everything that Jansen Jones takes with him when he travels for a match. I created this checklist for myself and it helped me pack for Hard as Hell, so let it help you too. After the match, I sat down with Ken and Russell to talk about the beginnings of PractiScore and where it is going in the future. I was blown away by all the different features that these guys have in the hopper that they're working on, and you will be too. Links in the show notes at threegunshow.com/episode 103. And now please join me in welcoming to the show, Ken Nelson and Russell Armstrong. Guys, welcome to the show.
It is so good to be here. I'm a little bit tired, but I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to see you.
I'm excited that you guys are back. Ken, I got to say, great match. This is a lot of fun. This is part two. This is our second attempt at trying this out here.
Yeah.
Because we sat down like the first day of Hard as Hell, and to set the stage for the audience here, we're at a Tactical Performance Center classroom, Southern Utah Practical Shooters, and we just shot the Hard as Hell match. It's like probably like midnight if I had to read by how dark it is outside.
By biology and daylight, it seems like it's midnight.
Yes. And everyone's tired, so a good match was had. And Russell, saw you cruising around the entire match with your pickup truck and running stats and running iPads and stuff like that. So it was cool to be able to get the live updates on PractiScore and see where everyone was standing.
Yeah, we try to bring a little bit of excitement and spectator participation, from home, because people like to track how their people are doing when they're at a match. It's surprising how many, to talk in geek terms, when people are watching the website, we can track how many people are actually following a match based on the views we're getting on that match's results. And it would surprise you when you see how many people are actually spectating the matches remotely through PractiScore. So it's pretty cool.
That would surprise me, and I definitely want to get into that, because that was one thing I was going to tell you guys, is I have a lot of people that will ping me on social media and stuff like that and ask me, like, how's the match going? What's it like? Who's the leader and stuff? So those are probably the same people that are looking at it on PractiScore as well. So it's kind of interesting. But guys, the reason I wanted to talk to you was PractiScore, and Ken, I had reached out to you before I got here. Said, hey, man, let's sit down and talk. And we were like, hey, let's get Russell in here, because Russell's like in the ones and zeros part of it, right? And then we shot Hard as Hell. And so I feel remiss if I didn't discuss this match.
Yeah, let's talk
Holy crap, man. So this I would say was, it's funny, because you when you shoot a match, you're like, oh, this is the funnest match of the year. But this match was so unique compared to all the matches I've shot this year. And I'm very privileged. I got to shoot a lot of matches this year. There was, a mix of fast-paced stuff, and then moving a ton, and then getting back into a bay, fast-paced stuff. We had open terrain, running through stuff, running down stuff, jumping in things, jumping out of things, 600-yard targets, clays flying through the air, tons of steel, and just generally a good time. And one of the cool things that was pointed out to me was I think it was Brian Vaught, and he said, even the guys that are taking this match serious aren't taking it so serious that it's ruining your good time.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's not the spirit.
Yeah. Spirit is a great way to describe it. This match has its very own unique spirit to it.
Right. It comes from the match, and it comes from from the competitors. It's a little bit circular. It's what we want. It's what they want. And the first year we did it, we came up with this basically hard as hell ha. It actually kind of became like I'm not sure the right English term, like an adverb. You just come up to somebody and say ha. Right? And if something sucked, you'd say ha. And it just kind of went from there.
Oh,
so now the old timers, the first year guys, and the staff, we talk that way. Something sucks, we just say ha.
Yeah, I was just talking to Kerry Palmer, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been doing this since 2012," and I'm like, "Huh, I didn't even know it existed that long."
Yeah, we're coming up 5th year.
That's great.
59 shooters.
So
first year,
and much more this year.
Yeah,
so
200 and something. I don't remember the final number.
Yeah,
213 people finished.
213 people finished.
Yeah.
So for folks listening at home, people that may not have the opportunity to see stuff like this on social media and hear from other people, give us an idea of like the idea of the match, sort of like the overall theme of what's going on at Hard as Hell.
Well, I run a range, right? So we pay for the range by events, right? So I need to create some events that attract people. And but I also need to create events that I think are fun to be involved with, right? And there are some matches you do because you need to, but you do them, but you're not. And I enjoy it, but it's not something that like is life changing or anything like that. Hard as Hell is quite the opposite. Hard the Hell we look forward to. It is fun to build. It is fun to run. I love the nature of the competitors that come. Not a completely different crowd, but I would say a select set of the practical shooting community is interested and comes to the match. It's also a very attractive match to newcomers. We get I think there were 30 or 40 people in this match. That was their first multi-gun match ever. Not just like the big match, but their first one ever.
I had talked to a couple people that was that way, and I was like, okay, well, hats off to you. Good for you.
Well, there's kind of two impetuses for the match. And the first is a sentence in Andy Horner's match book for Blue Ridge. It might still be there. I haven't looked. It said something like 3-gun is a very physical sport, and you should expect to become tired. And I'm like, I like that. I circled it, and I showed it to my son Brian first year we were out there. He's like, yeah, we ought to do a hard match. And that got me thinking about the Army. I was in the Army. I joined the Army when I was 17, and you go to the rifle range and things are easy, right? It's all slow, and it's more about accuracy and safety. Then you go in a live fire exercise, and everything's instantly goes from zero to almost impossible.
Yeah.
Right. You can't reload. You can't see because your helmet fell. You're sweating. Your glasses fog up. Everything becomes even the simplest things become so much harder. And I said, I'd love to try and give normal people, regular folk, a sense of what that's like, see where they are when it really becomes hard. And those two ideas merged together, and it became the initial idea. I called Travis Gibson, and I said, hey, we love Iron Man. We don't want to copy it, but we want to do something that's hard. Do you want to have maybe an Iron Man South, right, or an Iron Man Winter? That didn't quite work. Probably wasn't enough steel around or something, but just bad timing probably. And so we went off on our own, and we just literally Brian and I, my son Brian and I, just came up with Hard as Hell, like over dinner somewhere. That was it.
And the name works, and it definitely describes a lot of the obstacles, a lot of the stages, and a lot of the targets.
Well, yeah. The thing about Hard as Hell, we also decided at that initial dinner meeting, was that it would be hard as hell, but it would be doable by all.
Yeah.
And that's the design challenge. How do we make it interesting to a CrossFit athlete? Like we had a team from LA Sheriff's Department come up, all CrossFitters, all amazingly fit.
Mm-hmm.
How do we make it hard for them? But how do we make a 72-year-old guy with bad knees? How do we get both of those guys to enjoy the experience? And we do. So the oldest guy to do this year, I think, is 75 or 76. And the youngest was 13. So the challenge is, how do we design a match that keeps all of them satisfied? That was one of the goals of the match. You know, I'm big on goals and big on back planning from what I want. So it becomes a mix of the stage design, the obstacles, the spirit of the ROs, and the attitude of the ROs. All these are intentional. The attitude of the range master is going to come in and make accommodations if we need any, and the timeout as well. Then
So
you just put that in a happy mix, and you come up with something that literally anybody can do, and you bite off as much as you can chew.
So for a layperson, what's a timeout?
Timeout is the maximum time that you have available to shoot. At this match, it's 300 seconds.
Which is a ton of time compared to a lot of matches.
It seems like it, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
right.
that's a good point.
It seems like an eternity when you can't breathe.
Right.
And in some cases, when we've made mistakes and made it too hard, we've upped it to 400 seconds, just right on the spot. You know, because that's the spirit of the match.
Right.
We're not going to be hard asses about something that should change. We're going to admit we make a mistake, and we're going to fix it if it's possible.
Yeah, and you don't want to time out like 50% of your match. That would be terrible.
Right. So you put all that in a happy blender, and you come up with a match like Hard as Hell that literally world-class athletes will be gasping for breath at the end of stage.
Mm-hmm.
And 77-year-olds that can barely walk will finish.
Yeah.
And then somehow my design team managed to accomplish that every year. And they're truly astounding. I'm the public face of it, but I've got a deep team behind me.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and so interacting with your team all weekend was a ton of fun too, because you're surrounded yourself by a bunch of great people. The match was incredible. It reminded me a lot of Spartan races. I've run a ton of Spartan races. And if you're into Spartan races and you like guns, like Hard as Hell is like the place for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to confess. I'm not going to deny that I take inspiration from other matches, Blue Ridge, Iron Man, to a certain extent, Rocky Mountain a lot, and that I do see what Tough Mudders and Spartans are doing, and see how I can fit that into shooting. Absolutely, I send pictures to my prop builders. Hey, do you guys think you could build this? Or I'll ask Brian, my son, hey, do you think a AR could like stay submerged for a while? And stuff like that, and we go from the extreme and bring it back to that standard of make a world-class athlete gasp for breath, and a 77-year-old with bad wheels finish.
Right.
It's got to fit in there.
I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of matches this year and see how they're built, and a lot of, not to detract from anything that anybody's doing, there's a lot of creativity and testing of shooting skill going on. But what I like about this match, and I shot it this year, and I've shot it every year since, 2013. I've shot it several years in a row. The blizzards, the rain, the wind, and all of it.
So glad there wasn't a blizzard.
Oh, yeah. This weather was perfect. But what I really enjoy about this is the stages have a personality that's reflected in the concept of the design of the stage. And when you shoot the stage, you tap into that personality that was intended to be created, that theme of the stage. You can really think about each stage as a stage set to play out the concept that the stage designer wanted. And it's not just, here's an arrangement of some targets, and here's another arrangement of some targets, and here's another stage with a different arrangement of the same targets. No, it's a concept, each stage, and you remember the concept of that stage, and you think, I threw that grenade, I blew that stuff up, and there were explosions here, cool explosions.
Yeah,
there's a Bulgarian
noise.
shoothouse.
Mad Bulgarian shoothouse.
Mad Bulgarian shoothouse.
I climbed a wall, I blew some stuff up.
There was a terrorist training ground.
Yeah, cool stuff. The
I
themes.
jumped in a graveyard.
Yeah,
You know.
and you remember the themes
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the stage fits it.
A
It's really
war
cool.
crimes mass grave.
Yes,
That's
yes,
something to-
exactly.
yeah.
Well, and that's a very good point, Russell. And
Not just the difficulty, the personality of the stages.
exactly. So you go to a lot of places, and it's like stage 1, stage 2,
Yeah.
stage 3. You know, and these ones have, like you said, names and themes that go along with them that make them memorable, and that everything throughout that stage is unique to that sort of theme, which is really cool, and it has to be like a ton of work to be able to make that happen.
It is, but I'm a big fan of nothing happens by accident. At least very few good things ever happen by accident. And so we actually have a job. I'm a big fan of there's a job, and you don't talk about the person. You have a job. So we actually have a director of ambiance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have a director of operations. We have range managers. We have range officials, and we have a director of ambiance. And his job is to take the theme that the stage designers, who are more shooting oriented, and translate that into the theme we want for the match. So, he's making suicide bombers, and he's painting up the shoot house and building a roller coaster in past years.
A dinosaur.
A T-Rex.
Really?
When you went through the entrance to the roller coaster, it was just like at a carnival, and you went through the mouth of a T-Rex.
No kidding.
And these things don't happen by accident. You have to want them, and then you have to give the people their lead and some budget to do it.
Yeah.
And so the graveyard and all the wall of doom, all these things. I'll just say something like the roller coaster. Here's an example. Like, hey, Wolf, I'm tired of moving the targets. I want to move the shooters. And he said, okay. I'm like, how about a roller coaster? I'm like, well, all right. Can you make it safe? Like, not just safe to shoot from, like to be on? Yeah, I'll make it look like Coney Island. We look at pictures of Coney Island, do a little budget estimate. Okay, you got $2,400 to go build a roller coaster. And done.
And
that's how that happens.
just for part of a match, and now it's gone, or?
Well, we used it for Hard as Hell, and then we used it as side matches at other big things we run.
Okay.
So we got our effort out of it.
Okay.
And we used it as a fun thing for people to visit the range to use. We probably had 5,000 or 6,000 people go down that.
Oh, wow.
By the time we were done. So yeah.
So how do you decide when something like that you put a significant amount of budget and a significant amount of effort in is done?
With that our director of ambiance wasn't too pleased when I tore that down, but it was time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had people saying, yeah, we want the bay for this or that, and it was starting to get in the way. But I talked about the alpine sled.
Yeah.
That we're going to do that's going to happen, and I also had a little conversation with them about, all right, we've moved targets, we've moved shooters. Can we move a stage? So now we're going to move the stage past you.
Like Disney's World of Tomorrow with shooting.
Yeah.
Really?
So we're trying to figure out technically how to do that, but it might not be in a Hard as Hell match, or it might be just a pistol part or something, but we're looking at how can we move a stage past a shooter.
Interesting.
So that's just, it's
Tracks,
just fun.
Winches.
He'll figure
carts.
it out. Our director of ambiance is an amazing man, and he inspires other people to work with him on stuff, and I'm convinced we haven't quite figured it out yet, but I'm convinced we will.
So, one of the things that I noticed about this match is if you're not as good of a shooter as you should be,
We'll tell you.
You can move faster to overcome that some of that time.
Yeah.
And I probably know like a dozen or a half dozen shooters or more that would complain about that, saying like, oh, well, that's not shooting. When you're traversing
that's just not what they're good at.
When you're exactly. When you're traversing a wall and you're trying to to get from one stage to another, and it's 6 4x8 sheets of plywood with holes cut in it and pegs sticking out.
It's a horizontal climbing wall.
Horizontal climbing wall, but it's not as hard as like some of the stuff that I've been on in like climbing gyms and stuff. It's easily doable, like you said too. 75-year-old, 13-year-old, short people, tall people, everywhere in between.
And we have
But it's
tests.
not-
We have guinea pigs. We'll send short people up. We'll send
Yes.
tall people up. Everything's tested.
But it's not shooting. So what do you think about that?
Not much.
I have my thoughts on that is there's a bench range next door. So
Yeah.
that is just shooting.
I think that what happens is, you have sports. I'm a huge USPSA shooter, right?
Yeah.
I run nationals,
Mhm.
right? There's no doubt about my commitment to that sport, but that's that sport, right? And they've morphed from their original Jeff Cooper, IPSC, a way to train for tactical shooting to kind of track and field meets, shooting gallery. And I like it. I play it all the time. And they've come to an ethic where they don't want physicality to be too much of it. And that's their choice. And people who dig that can shoot it. For this match, we've come to the decision that physicality and being tired and testing yourself at your mental and physical limits is something that participants in this match should expect and like. And you shouldn't bitch about it if you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be surprised.
Right.
And B,
It's right in the name.
read the website.
Every game you could possibly want is available if you're a purist.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's F class, there's NRA action shooting.
Yeah.
We sometimes get together and go do a round of sporting clays over at the shotgun range for a light afternoon entertainment because you can stand in one position and practice your clay shooting. But nothing is quite like hard as hell.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not very sympathetic to people who who think there's only one answer to the shooting game.
Yeah.
I play about 20 different variants of it.
So
They all go to one skill set and they can all be built into this one.
It's true. That's very true. So for me, I have to say that I quite enjoyed that because where, I was deficient in shooting, I was, totally okay with jumping off of like a 5-foot ledge into a trench and then taking up a position rather than just kind of slowly crawling down it, It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, if I sacrifice the body a little bit and, push and run in some of these situations, climb up on the walls, go on the traverse wall a little bit faster, then I can make up for my deficiencies in shooting. So for me, it actually worked out pretty well. I was pretty excited about it.
Well, you're not necessarily making up for your deficiencies in shooting. You're just playing the game the way it's intended.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's just my answer to any of that.
Because it's an overall score, right? So
Right.
all that lies within the score.
Right. If I just wanted you to go shoot a shoot house and that's it, I'd say, here's the shoot house. No, what I want you to do is get dog-ass tired before you get into the shoot house, and then let's see what happens. Let's see if you forget targets. Let's see if you don't feel that your gun went to slide lock like the way you might normally because your arms are oxygen starved. Let's just see where it is. It's just fun.
Oh, and that definitely happened to me. There was a stage 6, I think, is where you had to carry an egg. You have to carry an egg while you're shooting pistol.
You have to protect an egg. Yes.
To protect an
Carry
egg.
an egg. That's another way to look at it is you have to protect your egg.
Ah, gotcha.
If you thought about it that way, then you would have probably not broken an egg. Not that you did, but other shooters.
Right.
Yeah.
Ah, that's a good way of looking at it. So the rule states that while shooting, you have to have an egg in your hand.
Yeah.
In your, I don't think
in your offhand.
Is it offhand? It's specified offhand? Okay. I hardly listen to stage descriptions, but
No, it's fine.
but while doing that, like I actually ran by 2 targets holding an egg.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly, because I'm concentrating on not squeezing this thing too hard, but holding on to it tight enough where I don't drop it. And then this is a cool match because there's actually coaching involved in it. So
Yes.
the RO shouts at me, 2 on the left, and I wasted 2 seconds running back and hitting those targets, but probably saved me 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Failure to engage.
There's 2 things about that. One is this is kind of a difference of how you think about matches. I've been to any number of matches where they give me a rubber chicken or they give me a briefcase, and I don't care about it.
Mm-hmm.
I bite it with my teeth. I do anything, and I just go back to freestyle shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, if you use an egg, there are consequences when you don't protect what you're supposed to carry. You got yolk on your hand. You got
true.
yolk in your mag well because you shoved the egg in there instead of a magazine. or you went to your mag with your egg and splashed it all over. So a lot of people kind of think the egg's gimmicky, but there's actually a very hard, well thought out rationale about why we use an egg.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a different vendor next year. I think our eggs this year were too tough.
Well, and one of the guys on my squad actually broke his egg and had to put the bits in the pan. And unfortunately, it was like right before he got to the rifle. So it was at the last little bit of crawl through where you had to like crawl on your hands and knees under
in the rinsing tunnel.
In the rinsing tunnel. So he gets out, and of course he's like trying to wipe his hand on the ground, but now he's got like burnt egg on his handguard and so he's gonna remember that for months now.
Yeah.
It's going to smell it.
It's gonna smell it every time he fires that rifle up.
But people don't like the egg. Well, actually, people love the egg. A lot of people, the way they describe it is, I hated it when he did it, but I loved watching it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a bit of a squad spectator thing. But we're not just being stupid with the egg. The egg is a very, very considered, and if I could figure out some other easy match, administrative way to have you something to protect that could break, I would use it. But eggs are perfect and they're cheap.
Christmas bulbs. They'll be on sale in January.
Can you cut yourself in a Christmas bulb?
Sure you can. There's more consequences to that than an egg.
I like where you're heading.
Vicious.
I know. Well, I'm
Nice,
done
Dave.
shooting, so I'm
Wow.
all into the angry stuff now.
All right, so we're going to call that stage the 3-gun show Christmas special.
Yeah, there you go. I'll even supply the bulbs.
Dave
All
wants to plan hard as hell next year. He wants in.
I'm pumped. This was so much fun.
But on the coaching part, so you can always tell a first-time competitor at Hard as Hell. At least when we get like a USPSA guy or somebody that's coming in from the more formal stuff, is they come to me and they want to reshoot because they got bad coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I just you should pick a better coach. I mean, coaching is part of the game here.
Don't do what they told you.
Right? But he was an RO. And I'm like, in the rules it says if you don't want coaching, you can ask for no coaching. If not, they're going to do their best to help you through this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's part of that equation about that 5-minute timeout, getting first-time shooters, pros through the match. We felt coaching would help that. But even more than that, like Ironman is our first major match experience with coaching. I just loved it. I love everything about it. So I knew that any match where I could legally do it, like USPSA, you can't do it past level 1, that I would incorporate that into our matches. I have no qualms about having that in any match, period.
Well, the cool thing about it, too, is the coaching at some point turns into heckling, and then just everyone has such a great time, and it becomes, charge it, and you're like, I'm charging it, shut up.
Yeah, so you're going to get, I would say that, there are probably some people that lost some time to bad coaching. But I'm pretty sure that the number of seconds saved by penalties from coaching this match is probably north of 5,000 or 10,000 seconds.
Yeah.
I never spent 30 seconds making up a target I was told to go back to that I wouldn't have lost
15,
on FTEs.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily about just the score.
Mm-hmm.
It's the camaraderie, the spirit, and to be perfectly honest, customer satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
This is hard. I want people to get through it and not feel like they were complete utter failures. And the coaching is actually part of the business plan. Happy customers.
Yeah, and seems like it works out pretty well. It creates like a cohesive team out of your squad rather than just like, additional competitors.
Yeah, we hear this a lot. Like the first day, people are new to it. They're still a little bit uncomfortable if they're coming from another environment.
Yeah.
That was
me
kind
for
of
sure.
quiet.
That was
and
me
then
for
by
sure.
day 2 and day 3, they're just hooting, hollering fools.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
which is great.
I was really lucky that there was a ton of people from Colorado that shot this match.
Yeah.
And it's all, guys I've shot with guys and gals I've shot with for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually had like 2 full squads of just Colorado people, which was really cool. So in my squad, it's people I've known for years, and we were able to joke and have fun right from the start, and also help each other and do that coaching thing that you're talking about. So that dynamic was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, and there's a bit of an art to doing it. Like, the guy who taught me how to coach, I think from a 3-gun perspective, is a gentleman named Sterling White, who's been around the game a long time. And he took me aside at Ironman. I was RO and said, Ken, let me show you how to coach. And so I ran with him for 2 or 3 shooters, and I'm like, I get it. Okay, I got it. And that's what we teach our range officers that are running people and our coaching. Is kind of what Sterling taught me, and I just pass it on to them. And it's all about that customer experience. I mean, matches. We're a nonprofit here, but matches are a business. And if you guys like you saw me at the awards asking people what they liked, what they didn't like, I'm passionately care about that.
If you don't hear what people like and what they don't like, you can't give them what they like and not give them what they don't like.
Yeah, I mean, I have an outline of what we want to do for Hard as Hell, or what we want to do for a USPSA match, or what we want to do. But ultimately, within the context of what's feasible, I want to give them what they want. I'm just a businessman at heart.
Right.
Yeah, we're a charity. Yeah, it's shooting. Yeah, it's this and that. But, at one point, I was very seriously in discussions about a mountain biking shooting match.
And we had talked about that. And when you get it going, I'll bring my mountain bike out here and I will shoot with you.
There's literally, I didn't want to appear like a total, shooting prostitute or anything here, but I've got a range.
Right.
And my mandate as the manager of that range is to fill it with shooters. Mm-hmm. If Hard as Hell wasn't working, then I'd figure out something else, because that's what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Now, I think Hard as Hell is working, and Nationals is working, and Area 1 filled up in a couple hours, 570 shooters. So I think that model works. And I'm not a genius for figuring it out. I run other businesses. I just do what I do there in this part of my life.
Right.
It's very simple.
So Ken, thank you for that segue. So the running businesses in your other life and this match thing kind of merged somewhere along the middle, and that merge is PractiScore.
Right.
My first experience with PractiScore was there was a guy named Ben Go that ran matches back home. Mm-hmm. You know Ben?
From tech support.
Yeah. Okay. So he ran matches at the range I used to shoot at, where I used to work, and he brought in a iPod one day, like iPod Touch, and he's like, "No, I'm going to keep score here."
Well, he's early adopter.
Holy crap! That flipped everyone's lid. They're like, "Well, no, if we don't write it down, how are we going to know who won? We need to put it in this Excel spreadsheet that someone made a long time ago, and then it automatically calculates the scores." It's like, well, no, you just put your email address in here. It's like half the guys were like at AOL.com.
You've got mail.
Yeah. So it was for me, I was like, okay, cool, because I never liked keeping the stupid paper scoring anyway, because I always thought it was like too easy to mess with or whatever, and you never know what the math behind the Excel spreadsheet the guy made was and everything.
Well, I would say that approximately 105% of Excel spreadsheets have errors. That's actual scientific study right there.
How long you been holding on to that one?
Yeah. No, I knew that long before I ever heard of practical shooting.
Right. So, where did the idea for practical shooting come from? Was that
for PractiScore or practical shooting?
I'm sorry, not practical shooting. Thank you, PractiScore.
My 10-year-old got me into practical shooting.
I saw it on TV.
I think because he wanted guns.
Right.
So, the idea for PractiScore. So, my 10-year-old Brian, now he's 19. We'd been pushing him to do sports. And he came to me and said, "Dad, I got this sport I want to show you." And he showed me a DVR'd Jim Scouton Shooting USA episode about IDPA Indoor Nationals. No, IDPA Nationals, an outdoor match. And, of course, I'd been in the Army, and I'd been actually a pretty highly ranked small bore and air rifle competitor. My team was like 5th in the nation.
Really?
Back when I was younger. We had Olympic gold medalists and stuff. So I played shooting sports at a very high level prior, but I never heard of practical shooting. I've been in the Army, had experience with all the tactical guns. But my first words to him were actually, I'm surprised the government lets people do that.
Really?
Yeah, it just didn't look right. And it certainly wasn't something that I wanted my 10-year-old to get involved with.
Well, I mean, I can understand the 10-year-old thing, but.
But then we watched it again, and they actually had a little segment about the safety, and I brought my wife out and said, yeah, the boy wants to do this, and she's actually more open than me. So I Googled it, and I started reading about it, and I started, because it was also concurrent to when I wanted to get a concealed carry permit, and I was nervous about if I was actually going to be confident, competent, safe to even do it.
Mm-hmm.
In the Army, I carried my pistol right here.
Mm-hmm. Which is on your
chest rig,
yep.
Because I didn't want to I kept weight off my legs so I could hike longer. So I Googled, and I found a club in Vegas. I Googled IDPA. I'd even heard of USPSA or anything like that. Met a guy named Dennis Hall, who couldn't have been there couldn't have been a better person to introduce us to practical shooting. Just a gentleman, sportsman, great guy. We did that for a while. He had a spreadsheet. And Dennis was particularly diligent. And we would get the results when we got home from Vegas. We'd get the results. And then one time we did that for about 6 months, and then somebody said, "Why don't you shoot in St. George? There's a USPSA club there." I'm like, "What's USPSA? Is that like, what is that?" And he's like, "IDPA, only
no vests."
Yeah, only
faster,
less fishing. And so I found Jim Mead, who was the club director here at Southern Utah Practical Shooters, and we brought my kid out. And as usual, it was the awesome. We get here, and it's actually a 3-gun that week. And so in like 3 minutes, I've got a shotgun and a rifle people have imposed upon me. And so that's the spirit of the game, I think.
Yeah.
Like at your club, I'm sure if somebody showed up, they would just start handing them guns.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely. No, really, it's okay.
Yeah, so about
They're perfectly safe.
a week and a half later, I found out that I'd won the rifle part, probably because of my rifle shooting in the back and but it was how long? A week and a half later.
Ah, yeah.
To get results.
I'd forgotten anything about the match by that point.
Yeah, exactly. You
anything
forget
specific.
the stages. You have no clue what you shot.
Right. So Dennis used to get the results quick, and our guy here was great, hard working, but it would take him a while. And so we were running about a week or later, and then he got sick. And so the club director came to me and said, "Hey, Ken, I know you're good with computers. You probably can figure out easy win score. Do you mind doing stats?" And I'm like, because Bob's sick. And I'm like, "Sure." And in my head, I'm going, my wife would enjoy doing that.
She's an accountant by
She's
trade.
an accountant.
Oh, she loves spreadsheets.
She likes numbers, data entry. She smiles when she taps in data. I've seen it. She smiles. She enjoys it.
Oh, weird.
And so I go home and I say, hey, baby, hey, sugar. I got 400 score sheets in my hand, right? And I got these scores. I told Jim that because Bob's sick, I'm going to do the stats, and I was kind of hoping you would help me. And she just looked at me and said, "Hell no." She literally said that. My sweet wife, who's always smiling and happy, said, "Hell no."
But not a pushover.
No, she's not dumb by any means. She's definitely the smarter of the two of us. So there I was tapping in scores, and I emailed them out about 2 a.m. Saturday night, Sunday morning, because I was going to, dang it, I don't want this week. I was going to do it.
Right.
And so Then it started. Then this email came in. Yeah, this score's wrong. And I'd look. Yeah, I typed it in wrong. Yeah, this time's wrong. Or you didn't enter my stage 4. And I go and find it. Yeah, it's there. And I started to just hate it. And that's the only time I ever did it.
Huh.
Only time I ever did paper, easy win scoring was that match.
So did you just turn down the responsibilities after that, or what?
No, I got on the internet and I found a tool called StageScore, which is a Palm-based scoring system.
Ooh, fancy.
Right? Palm. And
So for the millennials out there that have no clue what we're talking about, what's a Palm?
it's like
It's a PDA.
it's like I don't even know how to describe it
That's
to
another
the
word.
young whippersnappers.
Right.
It's kind of like
Somewhere between a steno pad and an iPhone?
not even the iPhone part's being generous.
It's like a iPod with no music, and black.
It's
and,
like an iPhone with no phone.
and monochrome.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
not
the
got
predecessor
color.
to all the
It's-
touch devices
it's,
we
it's
have
not
now.
There you go.
You have to use a stylus.
Yeah.
But a guy named Rod Cassidy had put together an impressive scoring program on this Palm. It was called StageScore. I saw that. I think I saw that Monday. I bulk ordered off eBay 20 Palms. I called Rod, worked out to buy the license for the club. He had a company named 3 Dog Software. He's got 3 dogs. He was in Albuquerque. He's since moved to Florida. And the next match we scored with StageScore.
Huh, okay.
And it was great.
And how'd it go?
It was great. We had scores that night. I had no problem. It worked. But then Palm started dying.
The brand that makes the devices, right?
The machine started dying.
Oh, okay.
Like every match.
Oh,
And-
okay.
And I'd lose scores, and we had to use paper because you couldn't trust it.
Oh, yeah, paper backup.
Yeah, and I wasn't feeling like it was the right answer. So I had an engineer. I run a software company, and it's a long-lasting software company. We first did stuff in '86, and the same company's now still chugging along, doing very well. But the issue is that the engineers there were feeling a little bit left out. They'd missed the web boom because we're not a web company. And they definitely didn't want to miss the app boom.
Right.
So I was feeling the pressure to start something to retain talent. I called it a sabbatical in place.
Okay.
You
yeah.
still work here. You just work on, maybe you can pick a project that interests you. And if you want it to be an app, great. So I had a guy who was one of our more talented people, and he wanted to do a sabbatical in place in apps, but he couldn't think of an app to write. And I'm like, I've got an idea. Here, I showed him StageScore, and I said, "Can you do something like this on?" It was not Russ.
Russell shaking his head here.
Not me. It
And
wasn't.
so that's how it happened. I said, "I need you to do StageScore on an iPhone," right? Because I had an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it happened.
iPad
So,
1.
but so we did about 4 or 5 matches with StageScore, and then shortly after that, about a week, we had the first version 0.01 of PractiScore done on the iPhone, and that's how it happened. And my intent was to just use it at my club.
Interesting. So how
Never
many?
had any intent beyond just using it right here.
So how many years ago was that?
That would have been 2000.
6 years probably.
Yeah, 12.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
Ben
11.
definitely was an early adopter on that one.
Yeah. And that's how it went for a while. Probably a year. We just
Mhm.
used it here.
So you just used it here for a year.
Yeah.
You had someone develop it like an entire piece of software
Yeah.
just for the range.
Yeah.
It,
Well,
So
it was pretty much hard built for USPSA scoring in
Yeah.
the initial
Right.
concept. It was a USPSA scoring app, and it still reflects that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't
some
recall
ways.
there being any other options for scoring when I was using it other than USPSA.
Yeah. Hit factor.
Yeah,
scoring.
hit factor, yeah.
And it was very bare bones. I remember the first match. The only time we've ever lost scores that I'm aware of in PractiScore that I can account for. We have reports of scores being lost here and there, but we cannot account for what's actually they're seeing. Was when we hadn't accounted for the fact that people were using iPhones and could get phone calls.
Oh.
So somebody be scoring and they'd get a phone call or a text.
And it's just gone.
And it's, yeah.
To be fair, in the early days of app development like that probably happened to a lot of different
A lot of apps.
applications
Oh, yeah.
because it was a new platform. Having your phone mixed with your laptop computer in one device, suddenly you had to deal with interruptions. And
Sure.
Yeah.
it was
So
a different
Now
design.
it runs in the background instead of running in the foreground.
Yeah, now
and
there's
stuff like
they're a little bit, the School of Hard Knocks throughout the app world has learned that the phones are used for phones
Right,
and
right.
for other things, and it's a lot safer that way. But so we ran that way, and I don't even remember if we had syncing, because syncing's hard. The hard part of PractiScore is syncing.
Yeah.
And
I keep looking at Russell for like a head nod or a, yep, that's hard,
Right.
or a, holy crap, that ruins my day.
Yeah, well, I can tell you about when I came into it, but
Yeah.
Ken's given the backstory pretty deep
Sure.
there.
Well, yeah, I kind of want to know when it turned into being like, oh, well, maybe we could give this to
that's-
another range or a second
Well,
range.
That's
yeah,
still
I can,
Ken's story.
I can get right there to that. So, we the issue was, well, first off, we have cross-pollination. We have people shoot here from Salt Lake,
Sure.
Vegas, Phoenix. And so what kind of happened was people said, hey, Ken, yeah, I want to use that tool you got. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't know. It's not legal. It was completely unauthorized. I was pretending to be StageScore.
Right.
PractiScore looked like the Rod's program StageScore
Okay.
for all intents and purposes. From the point of view of Easy Win Score and USPSA, the classifier submissions, we were just copying what it was doing
Right.
on an output basis, not an interface, but what the data it produced. So I'm like, okay. So we did it. And then Dennis, our mentor in IDPA, wanted to run and so we had to add IDPA. So we started to add sports. And so basically it started to become used in Vegas, Cedar City, the club up here, Havasu, because we have a lot of cross-pollination with Walker and Punu, those guys out of there. And then we got the Area 1 match here. And then it became serious because this is how we score.
Right.
And the USPSA guys had never heard of this. What is this nonsense? So I had to go and meet the board and do a bunch of stuff and show them what I have, and to get approval to score a level 3 match with it. And that's kind of when it really poof.
That was exciting.
Then we decided to put it in the App Store and let people use it and do an Android version and just do the whole thing.
Did you ever get a call from Rod and he's like, dude, the heck?
He's acknowledged in the forward to the manual.
Okay.
I talked to him beforehand. He was perfectly fine. It was just something he was doing similar to me. It needed to be done. He was making a little bit of money off of it, but certainly not enough. Not minimum wage money by
Right.
the time you factor the time in and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And I think he was actually relieved to have something reasonable for people to move to because the Palm was dead.
Right.
And he didn't have the interest
Platform-wise.
or the I don't think he had the training or any of the other interest in really doing apps like on the iPhone or the Android.
Well, then, so you're in a unique place where you've got employees that, may have underutilized time or underutilized talent or something like that, and you can just kind of.
It was a perfect storm. I was a guy who was a practical shooter who then got elected as president of the club, who had a software company, who had within that software company people that needed something new to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then it became less of a sabbatical thing and more what we had new people work on. Because in the core software business that we run, it's very technical. I really can't even really explain it to you. Not that you're dumb. It's just that this is a niche of not that you're that dumb.
How dare you, sir?
All I can say about that company is that the company that made your electronic gear as a customer, the company
Really, the recorder?
Yeah, the company that injects anesthesia into you when your surgery is a customer. Our customers for that company are people that have high investments in software where if it breaks, lives are lost, missions fail in the military, or
Space
large
shuttles.
amount. Yeah, space shuttle. Large amounts of money are lost because of software bugs. Those are our customers. We have about 12,000 customers around the world. Company's name is SciTools. And it's super hard to find people that know anything about how to do it. We kind of have to grow our own talent.
Right.
But before I go and put somebody into that, I have to know what they're good at. So when I hire an engineer, like when I hired Russ or when I hired anybody, I almost have to write off the first year and a half because I got to figure it out because I just can't put them in and have them screw something up.
It's like engineering. You can't just have them go and design like a high-pressure hydraulic system and you're like, hey, hope that doesn't kill anyone.
Yeah, hope that doesn't blow.
Yeah.
Right. It's exactly the same thing. The other complicating factor was that the body of software was approaching 2 million lines of code. It had been worked on for 12 years. It was complex. What it was doing was mentally even hard to decode. And we ran out of things that we could have interns or have new engineers work on safely.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a video game.
But I still need to assess. I still need to assess their talent and figure out and get them rigorous. We call it to where I can safely inject them into a team working on something.
Right.
So PractiScore and some other things became part of that, and that's really how Russell got involved. He came in as an intern, and it wasn't safe to let Russell near anything.
Look how far you've come.
You got to have thin skin to work where I work, or thick skin. I mean,
skin.
You can't survive with thin skin, is what I meant. Yeah.
Well, so before we get into Russell's entry and messing around with PractiScore, what was USPSA's reaction when you brought them this piece of software that they had never seen and asked, "Can we use this in your nationals match?"
Right. Well, I didn't exactly ask it that way. First thing I did was, there's a couple guys that are tech advisors for them. I sent them, got their feedback. I really wanted to know what they thought to make it, better. Then I arranged at SHOT Show. I arranged a demo with Dave Thomas, he's passed away since, but he was the longtime executive director of USPSA.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy, good friend. So you don't hit people with this big mama whomper of something. You do it in a staged way. Not that I was being, manipulative. That's just how I do stuff.
Right.
So that's what happened. And so basically, I got them excited about it. And
Show them how it'll benefit.
And then I asked them
Yeah.
about Area 1. And say, why don't we use my match, my Area 1 as a test bed for this?
And did you still do paper scoring complementary to
even
it at that time?
Even to this day, they still require that, which is stupid. But anyway,
Was there paper scoring at this match?
no.
But
No?
this isn't a sanctioned match of any sort.
Right.
So,
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
But
The
the reason I was asking is because there's well over 200 competitors at this match. So
We had zero.
we don't lose
errors.
scores. We've, to my knowledge, matches that I've seen us run since I've been involved in the project, we have not lost a score that we couldn't attribute to some human error.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So it just doesn't happen.
So where along the lines then, Russell, did you come into this?
Well, I like Ken, I was in the Army. Unlike Ken, I turned 30 at basic training.
Really?
Yeah, so I grew up doing construction, needed a change of direction. So I decided I'd join the Army to get my GI Bill and have a career direction. And when I got out, I used my GI Bill to go to Dixie State College, get my software engineering degree. And when I was a senior, Ken taught a class at the college on software engineering technique in general. It's about how to work in teams, how to be productive, planning, things like that. Some of your back planning stuff comes into that class. So something that's interesting about Ken that I should say is if he decides to do something, he becomes a subject matter expert on that and goes from there. So that's why, when he talks about knowing the thing, he knows the thing. So anyway, he came in and taught that class and met me and one of my the guy I work with there at the office a lot, Brian Williams, and hired Brian, and then interviewed me and hired me, and he liked us because we were vets and recognized work ethic, and so
That's a challenge to find work ethic.
We got
in recent college grads.
We got hired a lot on that basis.
I've seen a lot of them.
And being old guys and crusty and having beards and all that. So anyway,
profiling is what you're saying.
Yeah. So we started there, and like he also said, he started us on other projects. The interest was always in shooting. When I came in, I loved shooting already, but I didn't know anything about practical shooting. But my brother and I started immediately coming out here and working on projects here at the range. We built some of the buildings, laid all the wire in the ground, stuff like that. So, there's an application called Shot Coach that we built, and that was basically while I was an intern and still doing my senior year in college here. We started an app called Shot Coach, and Ken's idea was, why don't we, instead of looking at people's shooting and talking about what we think was going on, why don't we get analytical? Why don't we use data? We need to know times between shots. We need to be able to look at positions. We need to be able to analyze with real numbers and real metrics what goes into shooting and what makes it good and what makes it bad.
Yeah, the idea was to be able to account for all time spent on a stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it does that.
Yeah, so this was my first project out of school, and school's all theory, and school, everything looks really hard, and then you go into a company and you start working for them, you start actually seeing what it's like to actually build an application that somebody's going to want to use.
Sure. A
real thing, not a dumb school project. So this is what I was thrown into, and I still consider it to be kind of a hard project.
Very hard project.
And I loved it. It did things that are pretty interesting in software engineering, and if I say something that's nonsense, just ignore me or edit it out. Anyway, it did.
Techno gibberish and deleted here.
Yeah.
So I'm a mechanical guy, so you may have to talk in small words.
So something that's hard to do in computer science is signal processing. Mm-hmm. Lots and lots of data points moving past really fast. Trying to pick shots out of audio.
Okay.
Trying to with feet crunching on gravel.
Yeah.
Or echoes coming later. It was the kind of thing that's rigorous that I need to test engineers on before I put them in the real game.
Right.
Shots bouncing off of berms, not being the shot that you want to mark. You want to mark the real shot, not the echo bouncing off the berm, not the echo bouncing off the wall, stuff like that. So it was a pretty interesting project, and we got it working, and I think it's a pretty cool app. We've distributed it for a couple of years now, and that was my first project working for Ken. Everybody I worked with got to put up with me banging on blocks and making loud bang noises from my office. Fortunately, we had separate offices at that time, so I could close the door. Anyway, so all these guys are working on an application that's for punch cards for stores. That was one of the things that we were doing, and I'm in there banging on blocks and making loud noises and analyzing shooting videos over and over and over. So,
no kidding.
Anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I spent a year on that, and we got that out, and then.
And that was actually the tool that was used to find the "Don't plus to me, bro."
Yeah.
Don't plus to me.
Have you heard that cheating scandal in the southeast section of the USPSA? There's an RO. People you were using Shot Coach to time their stages, and they were coming up with numbers that were different from what the scores were.
Right.
And then somebody sat down and realized that this was all happening from one RO.
Yeah.
Who was plus twoing his enemies and minus twoing his friends. And he was that video of him not showing the timer to anybody. He'd always hold it up to his chest.
Yep.
And so that actually kind of was what made people more aware of Shot Coach.
I can imagine him shaking his fist and cursing Shot Coach to this day.
So. And of course, the other thing about that is that what caused that idea was I needed to integrate Rust into a rigorous software environment. And I run a training academy, and I needed to look at shooters, what they were doing.
Sure.
So, the two interests, the two needs mesh. And I don't want to waste money or do anything like that. But if I'm not going to be able to use what he's working on until I can trust it and know that it's going to be rigorous, why not have him do stuff like Shot Coach or PractiScore?
Well,
now, of course, PractiScore is important.
Yeah.
And we have to be careful who we put on it.
So now he's got me painting Easter eggs at the office or something.
Yes. Russ is our office mom. He stocks the fridge. And
Nice. So shot coach, I've seen a lot of guys, show like analyze video and stuff like that, but I haven't played around with myself, so I'm gonna have to check that out. But when so we're looking at PractiScore now in 2016 as like a fully robust app that that runs a ton of matches around the country. And if I go to a range and they're not running PractiScore, it's questionable.
I've heard people say they'll walk off if they're doing scores on paper. They'll just leave.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. But.
I mean, I think that's somewhat true, but it's sort of a leading indicator of what you're going to get at the stages.
All right. Well, so I have a I dealt with so much paperwork for a long time that I know you guys are sitting watching me writing a notebook, but that's different.
I do that too.
I try to be completely paperless, and checks drive me nuts. And one of the coolest things about PractiScore is you can actually register, and for me is you can actually register and pay for something right there, rather than mail in a check. Because now I got to find a stamp, now I got to find an envelope, now I got to find a check. I'm 36 years old, and I don't have any of that stuff because I've gone.
Yeah, I haven't sent a letter
digital.
in. I really can't tell you how many years it's been since I sent a letter.
Pikes Peak Shotgun Challenge 2014 was the last one.
Oh, well, I mean, like probably 3 years ago, I probably went to a match that had paper registration. But
now you can do it all online.
I confess that my wife, not that it's woman's work at all, but she's an accountant. She's an accountant, and she's dealing with stuff like that. So she has for the company. So I knew she had stamps. So I'd fill it out. I guess we did USPSA Nationals work that way until a couple years, 3 years ago. The ones I ran were used PractiScore.
So when did you make the decision to turn it from we're scoring USPSA, now our buddy wants IDPA to like a fully integrated type of match management system?
I came to the decision that for it to work, it had to be comprehensive. That you couldn't take a little bite of the apple and have it work.
Right.
Because the other thing is that everything that PractiScore does, ultimately, if you trace it back, is because I needed it at this club. This is sort of the
scratching your own itch.
Yeah, I mean, it solves everything in there. I guess if you could sum up the current PractiScore philosophy is, if it ain't in there, Ken didn't need it, right? And if Ken didn't need it, you probably don't either. And that sounds egotistical, but if you look at what we do here, we run some of the largest multi-gun matches. We do run the largest pistol matches. We run the largest outlaw matches. We run 16 matches, club matches a month.
16 club matches a month?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, we get it done here. And so all of a sudden that drove what PractiScore needed. And so then it became, I think the key to think about PractiScore is who's the customer of PractiScore. If it's free, but if you look to use a business metaphor, PractiScore is all about clubs. I say that we're sport. We're sport agnostic. Thank you, Russ. I'm getting tired.
It's been a long day.
If you have a sport that's called practical shooting, we'll figure out how to score it, right? And sometimes we do that at a loss. Russ will spend a week adding some game that's never going to get started. But we're like, well, we want to be comprehensive. If it's practical shooting and it's not completely ridiculous, then we're going to add it either as a new scoring type or as a template or some way. So you have a little button that says the Dave Hartman game.
We only build ridiculous stuff for ourselves.
Yeah. The second part of it is that the core customer is the club. So what does the club need so that the match director's life is easier? I ran Hard as Hell. I got Area 1, largest match in the country. I got Barry's, one of the largest match in the country.
Ironman, 8 days. of match.
Yeah, I help manage a few other large matches from an administrative point of view, just as a favor. Why do I do it? It takes me about 10 minutes a day with the PractiScore's system that we've set up. It's easy. Literally, I approved, 440 competitors into Area 1 over the space of a few days, about 15 minutes at a time.
Match directors get their lives back.
Yeah.
Because match directing doesn't pay for the most part.
Right. So another way to look at PractiScore is that every week for the typical match director, let's just take a club match.
Okay.
And the stats guy. Let's put the stats person, whoever's doing that, and the match director together. We're saving, I would estimate easily 3 to 4 hours a week per match director times 500 to 700 clubs that are using it. So we're saving basically 2 years a week.
That's a lot of time.
That's why we do it.
That's amazing.
That's why we do it.
I think the tipping point that I can recall, and this might just be the way I'm seeing it, but I remember when I first came on with the company and decided I wanted to be the guy that was involved with the practical shooting because
he came and asked to be on the team, lead on the team.
The guy that wrote it wasn't so much into shooting. He's a spectacular engineer, one of the smartest people I've ever known. But he's
second smartest.
One of the, not the, but one of.
Well, he hadn't met me yet.
So. Yeah, but he didn't love shooting, and I was getting into it, and I really liked it, and I grew up shooting. It was just kind of, I knew I wanted to be part of it, and so I participated in that Area 1, the first one.
Yes.
And the original online system for that was strictly posting the results and making them available to the competitors. Right. And there were some hiccups there because there was a massive amount of traffic. And that, to me, was an indicator of where this was going at that point in time. Right then, I saw that traffic and what it was, how that tested what we had built. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is cool. This is going somewhere. And back then, even, I thought, this is going to get huge. It's gigantic.
I remember sitting at a match one time where everyone, you look up and, I was the only one that didn't have a smartphone at the time. But you look up and, everyone is buried in their phones. Yeah. And they're like, it's not updating, it's so slow. It's like, okay, everybody stop right now, and every third person do this. Of course, this is the traffic.
And we tried various techniques to throttle it, to keep you from hitting the reload button, and it's hopeless. So what I did is I just went and I asked Brian Williams, the web lead, I said, hey, Bri, go figure out how Netflix does it, and let's build it that way.
Make it
because I don't know anything about web stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Every web project I've ever had has been a huge pain in the tush. I probably have a few $100,000, easily $700,000, $750,000 worth of wasted web projects at this company.
Mm-hmm.
Before I ever heard of practical shooting, so I've always been very leery of them. But I figured, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. So I asked Brian to just go figure out how Netflix build their system, and that's actually Dropbox and Netflix are actually our architectural models for PractiScore, because that's the kind of it's not getting that level of activity on a scaling thing, but when you look at it from the view of an individual server,
right,
it's similar. And so what you build is a scaling system that Netflix adds tens of thousands of servers. We add, 25, but it's the same process.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I don't even know that match is open for registration. Area 2 open the other day. It was a blip.
Yeah,
that's good.
A blip. We can have, 200 Area 2s or Area 1s open up on a night, everybody trying to register, and the system won't even notice. So that's how critical it became. So we just solve it.
So this brings up, you're talking about Russell. You're talking about the the impact of that first match. Brings up something I want to talk about, and it's something you and I kind of discussed the other day before we had to break because you got a call. But it's the scoreboard / leaderboard concept at a match.
Yeah.
Where you can go, I go to anything like you go to Colorado Mammoth, which is like indoor lacrosse, and you know who's winning.
Mm-hmm.
That does not exist at most ranges in most matches. So do you see like a time in the future where you walk past the clubhouse or whatever, grab yourself a cold Mountain Dew, and then there's the leaderboard right there?
Yeah, the hardest part about that is the infrastructure on the ranges, and we've always fought with that from day one is, does the range have Wi-Fi or do they not have Wi-Fi? And we've always had to assume they're in the Stone Age. They got one iPad and they don't, they're shooting in a swamp. So that's where we've had to start from.
Well, in Colorado, that's true, but it's a little bit drier. But
well, in
no Wi-Fi,
southern
no
Louisiana, that's what we hear too. So
we first started doing that 3 years ago.
Crimson Trace.
Yeah.
I got a projector and projected a leaderboard onto the roof of the tent.
And it was hugely popular.
It was a night match, and we had people sipping hot cocoa
imagine.
and watching it update all night. And we've done it at Superstition. We've done it at Three Gun Nation, their nationals and their Pro Series matches. One issue on that is the sort of the distributed nature of the shooting. It makes it very hard to actually decode what's happening.
There's no football field.
Yeah.
right, yeah, it's true.
So
A football field has lines. You know who's crossing it.
Well, you sit in one spot and see the whole game.
Yeah.
And in it, like at this match, or especially at a USPSA match, any kind of scoring that's factored, hit factor or points per stage type of scoring, you get a 100% winner. If it changes, everything changes.
Right.
The whole deal can change. Well, so that sort of makes you can't really do a leaderboard because you don't really know it unless you're as a match director. That's why we end up with super squads. That's why if I don't have a super squad, I try to identify what I would call 100% shooters that are distributed out, and I use that to kind of figure out where the numbers are going to be for a stage. So it's just plain hard. In fact, I've pretty well given up on it in terms of being something that's out of range. Instead, we've moved it to the web because that's where everybody wants to look anyway.
Okay.
When you finally get a smartphone, Dave, you can join that parade.
We kind of see that as I've done stats at a lot of matches around the country, and one of the things that I think the MDs appreciate is having live updates. So we go around the range and we make sure that we're getting the latest results in, and we're making sure they're getting onto the web as quickly as possible because, we honestly try to spoil the competitors.
Sure.
If you've seen Andy upstairs at Rock Castle during Blue Ridge, he is just sitting there, Russell, did you post the scores from that last stage yet? Because he wants to see how his boy's doing, And Ken's the same way. When we're on the road, Ken's looking at the web and seeing how Brian's doing on the road. And so, there is that spectator concept with performance as far as the results go anyway.
So how do you physically do that? How do you, Russell, how do you make sure that update happens when it should or when that stage is done?
Well, the beauty of this range is that we have Wi-Fi here, and so
we had
until
about 2 hours into this match. Then something happened.
Yeah, so there's been some damage out here. Our infrastructure's taken some hits,
literal
shots
from the road.
Yeah. But
man,
in a big match, and when we're doing area matches and nationals here, you can run the stats from your chair at this range. And so you just pull all those results in from those stages as they come in. Score by score, you can pull them in and post constantly to the web. And it does require user intervention. We've built systems to automate that a little bit, but mostly the stats guy pulls the scores and pushes them out. When I'm on the road, you've seen my rental car with a Wi-Fi router on the dashboard.
I have.
And like Rock Castle's really big, so you got to go way out to all those ranges and collect the scores.
So by collect the scores, you just get within Wi-Fi range of the iPad?
Yeah, the scoring pad and the master pad, and you just pull those scores in. It's a distributed system, so you've got multiple computers all running the exact same software, and you just collect the data. And then the master device aggregates that data into the match, and then you push that up to the web. And when we're out on anywhere we go to score, because Ken's done a ton of this, years of this. I learned from him doing this, like multi-gun nationals several years ago. That was my first experience on the ground, and he taught me. So we just go out and we pull the scores, and then we push them to the web, and everybody that sees us at a match knows my score will be within probably 30 minutes to an hour, I will have live results because of the distributed nature of a match. It's not always instant, but we do our best.
Right.
So it's a little bit challenging sometimes, like at Rocky Mountain, 9 miles from stage 1 to stage 9. But if we really wanted to make it quicker, there are actually ways to do it instantly.
They're on the board too.
Yeah.
They're on the list.
To do it instantly almost, with the current tech, you can do it instantly if you're just willing to work at it.
Right.
Usually you don't want to devote enough people to that because it would take multiple people. But so mostly what we try to do is agree with the match director. Like at Blue Ridge, I'm going to do 2 updates in the morning and 2 updates in the afternoon because that's about how fast I can drive around.
Right.
And at that range, or at that match, I also act as a quartermaster where I'm delivering supplies and lunch. So I always try to do 2 or 3 other jobs because, frankly, with PractiScore's stats is really easy.
Mm-hmm. It's a one-man show.
So one of the cooler things I got to do this year was go to Three Gun Nation Nationals, watch the the shoot off, the semifinals, and do a live commentary.
Cool.
Of it. So we had a notebook and pen, and we were writing down scores and then trying to figure out penalties and stuff like that. So from that perspective of, yes, this is a selfish question. I see that look on your face.
Yeah.
From that perspective, is it possible for me to use PractiScore to tell the audience that's listening over the live stream of the Three Gun Show what exactly is going on?
Yeah, you should have just set a match up, added the competitors, punched their times in. That's actually what Charles Soule is doing, as they go through the build up to that.
Right.
He's running it and displaying to a TV.
Yeah, and so if they're
same
displaying
thing.
that to a TV, that's obviously uploaded to PractiScore, right?
Right.
Would I be able to get those results like real time as I'm sitting there watching it if I had like an iDevice of some sort?
Yeah, and if they let you on the network and
Right.
trusted you look a little shifty, but I'd probably let you on my network.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so that's definitely the case. But just to extend that, so we're running the area match here in April.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons that we're doing it is we needed a large test bed for some serious advances we're making in this realm. So my back planning, I'm a big back planner. Like we could probably do a whole podcast on my view of back planning and how it just makes your life better.
Okay.
Including shooting, competing, living, being married, everything. Back planning can make everything better. But my back plan there involves kind of have a vision of a shooter shooting a score, the RO scoring it, and the minute the RO enters the final score and the score is validated, the shooter's pocket buzzes.
Oh, okay.
They've got a push notification from PractiScore. This is your score. What do you think? Proven, yay or nay?
Oh, I gotcha.
Okay. And similarly from the back end of it, so that's kind of the shooter experience. The sports, USPSA in particular, most of the other sports, I guess IDPA is a little fussy about it, but they want this paper backup, which is quite ridiculous. Paper has added more error to PractiScore. When I ran nationals, I think we had 17 reshoots or something based on scoring errors. I'm speaking from memory, so it's probably somewhat wrong, but I think all of them were basically handwriting errors.
Like, is that a 7 or a L?
Yeah, the handwriting didn't match up. The shooter comes up and says, my score doesn't match PractiScore. They got to give him a reshoot by rule. Right, so basically the paper was not helping. It was making it worse.
Gotcha.
And it was completely secure. But anyway, to solve that, what we want to do on the back end is the same. Your pocket buzzes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on the way to that being the pocket buzzing with your score, it was logged to the cloud and backed up instantly. Complete transactional log. The same kind of process that backs up your checkbook, that backs up all the data that your life depends on, using the same exact software systems, is now doing the same to your score. So it's perfectly safe. It's never going to go away. It's never going to get deleted. It's perfect. So that's going to be, we're working with USPSA to get approval for that to be the first ever level 3 paperless match. Instant scoring, but even before the shooter knows about it, it's backed up completely. And there's some fail-safe. If the internet dies, or then it goes to a local Wi-Fi, and if that Wi-Fi dies, then the scorekeeper gets a note pop-up, says we were not able to archive this. Write this down. Although probably what I'd first do would be I'd just back it up locally. So that's kind of the big picture for where we're going from in my quest to get rid of paper, right? Which, in practically speaking, in club matches and any kind of serious big outlaw match, it's not formally required by rule. They're not using paper. USPSA level 3 matches require paper still, but we're going to try and use Area 1 as a test to confirm the tech. Got to eat my own dog food. That's a software expression. I don't know if you've heard it.
I've heard it from you, but I've never heard it before.
Yeah, and in the software world, one of the best ways it's free testing basically, is you eat your own dog food. You use your own software.
Okay.
Also, don't distribute a product you wouldn't use yourself.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit of the golden rule there. So that's where we're heading on that. And then that'll tie into so we already have this Android competitor app, which we can talk about. And then Russell is implementing an iOS version as well. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be the core way that shooters can get information about their scores, just right to their pocket. And there'll also be a core way that you can watch shooters. So I can say, hey, Dave Hartman's a guy I want to track.
Right.
So literally, you could be walking at the mall, and your pocket could be buzzed, and could say, hey, Dave Hartman's tank stage 6 at Hard as Hell.
I did.
Yeah. Well, I'm watching.
How did you know? No. I actually did really good at stage 6, but
it's the egg.
Dumb tunnel.
It is.
Stupid tunnel.
I actually did really good on that one.
I hate the tunnels. My knees kill me.
So one thing I've found is the Android app. So I have an Android.
Yes.
Obviously is the only reason I have experience with that one. And then my experience with iDevices comes from ones I've used in matches.
Right.
So two different interfaces, right? One is a match input, and one is like a competitor output, right?
Yeah, we call it the PractiScore competitor.
Yeah. So
one's data entry for scoring.
So once I found out that you guys had PractiScore competitor, and I found out from one of your Facebook posts, you're just like randomly pontificating about something as you often
pontificating. Do. I probably you mean sharing important critical information.
Standing on a pedestal and preaching at us.
But it was thinking out loud. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I do that a little bit.
Yeah. You think out loud. So
sharing.
Maybe I need to look up pontificating because
that's
I've
a very
had a lot
negative term. I'm deeply.
Is that really? Okay, I apologize. I've had a lot of negative reaction to that lately, and perhaps I need to look it up. But anyway.
Well, pontificating, you don't need to look it up. I can pontificate it to you.
So I purchased the app, and
thank you.
I have used it successfully in multiple different arenas, and I find when I go to a different match, log into the little thing, and try to use it, now I have to completely reset up like my parameters as a shooter. Obviously, the thing's not going to know where I am or anything, but it thinks I'm at like the old match, and it has like all the track this person, track that person type of stuff that's going on in there.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot more features in that app that I don't know about that, or maybe there's stuff in the iPhone that I don't know about. But I don't know that a lot of people, a lot of competitors, as just a random bias sampling of everyone that I was walking around looking at their iPhones this evening, I didn't notice anyone using the actual competitor app. So what does that competitor app offer you on maybe an Android, maybe an iDevice, that you're not getting from the web interface?
Right, and that's the perfect question, and that's why on the iOS version of the competitor app, it's really just short for the score viewing. It's really just shortcutting. You don't have to figure out the link.
Right.
It'll ultimately know where you are. It'll suggest that match because of your geography, or the fact that you were registered for it in the online system.
That part's nice.
And it'll all just be, okay, hey, Russell, you're shooting hard as hell. I couldn't help but notice, Russell, that you're shooting hard as hell, and here are your results.
And today is the day that match is happening.
Well, no, I mean, to just look for scores, right? Because we know all that.
Oh, okay.
So I see new scores for you, so I think I'll show you that match, right? It's a basic question. But that's why I want to move that side of the competitor app to be more about score verification, score awareness, and a little bit less about comparing shooters and tracking shooters, and kind of leave that to the web.
Okay.
2 reasons. I think that I think that we want to add a lot of features to the web, and we are in the process of adding a lot of features to the web that I simply don't want to replicate in iOS and on Android. And also, practically speaking, I need to do something that everybody will use, and I don't think that means that I can sell it. Right? I think it just needs to be part of the normal web infrastructure that people can just browse and go there. The paid app was an experiment. The gentleman who's the main developer for the Android wanted to try it. I'm a huge fan of giving people their lead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go ahead. So all the money from that app goes to him, which is great. But I don't necessarily want to do those features on iOS, and I want to do them, some variant of them, on the web so that they're available to everybody. And I want to turn the competitor app into something more for what helps you do what you need to do to match.
Mm-hmm.
A live tool.
Yeah.
That would be totally cool.
I also want it to be something a match director uses, because remember the customers. So, as an example, I need to be able to send a message to a shooter, and I want to know that they have it in their pocket. Like, we had a issue where I had to change some rulings on the shoot house.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go find a bunch of people and figure it out, and then go track them down. I would much rather have their pocket buzz and say, "Come see Ken at HQ."
Yeah. Or,
Right.
hey, we found your First Max shotgun.
Exactly. So a match communication thing, a match. Basically, I want to make the matches better, make the club, the match director's job easier, the range master's job easier, the stats guy's job easier, and the competitor has a job in a match too. I want to make that job easier too.
Sure.
That's what I want the system to be about, and I want all the other stuff to just push up to the web.
Yeah, and I would say, you mentioned, Russell, using it as a communication tool, as a live tool.
A live tool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of look at the sports this way, is that I know a lot of people might not think this, but one of our goals is to help the sports grow.
Yes.
We see it as a Second Amendment issue, a freedom issue. We see it as something we really love. We care about it. We honestly care about it. We have friends in this thing. We're invested in it.
Almost all my friends are in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, samesies.
So what we're doing here is really trying to grow the sport. And one of the things that, personally, the way I see it, and I think we have this vision all together, is that making it more live and more audience friendly, more visible, more viewable will make it better and make it grow. And the closer we can get to making everything live, the better our chances are of making this thing grow the fastest, because it needs to be live. And so these tools will go towards that goal of making it live.
Yeah.
We can get match directors to have results that are constantly live, and the competitors have access to those results, because of the nature of it. Like, there is no football field. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
The closer we can get to that goal, the more we're going to help the sports grow, the more we're going to have it become popular and get it more visible to the public as a real, safe, good thing for people to participate in. And we don't necessarily care about exposing it to all the public, but it'll just help the sports grow. It'll make it better.
As an example, the current web initiative I've got, the system has grown to the point where just maintaining it is a chore, right? We have 700 and some clubs. I think on any given week, we've got about 12 to 16,000 people registering for matches through the online system. So it's gotten to be pretty large. But we do, I'm always trying to move it along. So this month's initiative is to get the sponsors some love from PractiScore. And again, it's part of helping Ken as a match director. Right? You saw how much I wanted to do at the awards tonight, how focused I was on trying to give the sponsors a positive platform to get in you guys' heads, right? And I just told you what I wanted to do with the sponsors, buy their stuff. right? Or
Right.
tell somebody about it. And so you have sponsors. My son has sponsors.
I don't have sponsors.
Oh, you don't? Well,
No.
Talk to TPC. We'll hook you up.
Okay.
I thought you were represented by the Three Gun Show.
Yeah.
Hey, I know the guy that writes the checks for that.
Matches have sponsors. Stages have sponsors. So what Brian, the web guy, is working on, just putting the finishing touches on right now, is our sponsor system. So me as a match director, I'll be able to specify the stages and the sponsors, and that'll flow right through to the scores. So you look at stage 2 if True Spec is the sponsor of stage 2, you're going to see True Spec's sponsor information when you look at the results of stage 2.
Cool.
And when you click on the link, they're going to know that lead came from Practical Shooting, and that's what Russ is talking about, helping the sport.
That's great.
And you as a shooter, like my son has, TPC, Terran Tactical, MGM, Loophole. He as a shooter is going to list his sponsors in his PractiScore account, and when you look at his scores, you're going to see his sponsors, and they're going to know that inquiry or that visit to their product came from Brian Nelson.
I think that's great. That adds value to the shooters as sponsored shooters. It adds value to the sponsors as contributors to the sport.
It's just what needs to be done as we move to the live system that Russ is talking about. At any given time on a weekend, we'll have some. This is how it works. You get 27,000 practical shooters, right? We're getting about 12 to 15,000 active on any given weekend. We got about 100,000 people looking at the scores.
Right.
Different people.
Wow.
Right? So there's an interest outside. There's family members, friends, people that aren't shooting that match but are just checking, seeing what's going on. So it's a really good platform. The best I can estimate it is that, like for instance, the eyeballs that practical shooters give to Facebook, right? That hates practical shooting,
right?
That hates guns, that hates everything that we're about, thinks we're a bunch of hicks.
Tries to limit the exposure.
Probably $12 to $15 million a year of clicks and ads and impressions are going to Facebook because of what we do and what we talk about and where we talk about. And I think that's stupid, and PractiScore is going to take that away from Facebook the minute I can get it done.
We want to
like it.
We want to take that whole audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so as an example, the live stuff, if you have a video, I would say within the next 3 months, if you have a video of a stage, you're going to be able to associate it with your score on PractiScore. And when you see your score, I'm sorry, answer the question.
No.
When you see your score on
going.
PractiScore, there's going to be a little video icon, right? And you're going to be able to see the video. I don't know yet if we're going to host it or if it's going to go to YouTube. I kind of want to host it ourselves so that we can control it, and YouTube might ban shooting videos for all I know.
Yeah.
And then
Plus they serve ads and all that.
Yeah, and so I just want to. I guess it's a weird business model, but I want to make a business out of hosing Facebook and YouTube.
Because they hate us.
Because they hate us.
Yeah.
And if
So,
I can,
they
if I can afford to do that on the, relative, as part of my effort to get my engineers to be rigorous, because I need to do it anyway. If I can accomplish my mission of helping my club, and my secondary mission of telling people that hate us to go pound sand, then so much the better. And I think I just summed up in a sentence what PractiScore's all about.
I like it.
So.
Well, I did not expect it to go that way, but I'm totally behind you on that. Facebook absolutely drives me nuts. They limit absolutely everything that has to do with guns in who views it and everything.
So the thing we're going to release, I think this week, is actually a complete classified system for selling stuff globally. Like you can go in and sell anything practical shooting related on the Practa ads within PractiScore. You can do it based on a match, so you can look at what people are selling that are coming to the same match as you.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
right?
really?
So,
wow.
Yeah, I got a Versamax for sale. It's a piece of crap, but you can buy it cheap. Right? Maybe I ought to rewrite that ad for you, Dave. But
it's not my Versamax. That wasn't mine.
And that's a prime example of our reaction to Facebook shutting down. We have this 3 Fun group that's selling stuff.
Yeah.
Yard rakes and shovels.
Yeah, you are.
That's what we call ourselves.
It's just a matter of time before they. I mean, they have automatic. Some dummy's going to actually put Glock in there instead of Flock, and Facebook's going to auto catch it and then shut the thing down.
Yeah.
So that's an active problem for my club. We've had 2 or 3 get shut down. Practical shooting equipment user groups and pages and stuff. It's a problem for people that want to get Square and Stripe accounts, because we used to have a classified section on our club website. Square saw it, said we sell guns, and shut us down.
Really?
Right? Even though we don't sell guns, our users sell guns to each other. They were just, right? So that's the other thing I want to hose is Square and Stripe.
Look for PractiPal in the future.
PractiPal. I'm down.
PayPal. We're not going to do our own merchant system, but I'm going to partner with a system when I can find them that is gun friendly, shooter friendly, and has low rates that I can pass on. Because we're doing, I don't know what the last number, but I think we're going to be up to $10 or $12 million in match revenue going through the system. That's a big enough number that some processor ought to be interested in and give us a discount.
Yeah.
That's a large box store in a town. That's Best Buy, right?
Right.
And so they would get pretty good rates. So, so if I can help my club and myself in the job I do here, if I can have something useful for new engineers to work on so they can prove that they can become rigorous, or we can teach them to become rigorous so they're safe to work on the big stuff, and I can hose companies and organizations that hate us, win-win-win.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's it. I know a lot of people wonder, what the hell's Ken doing? And I'm glad you gave me the platform to explain it, because that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I've
not
been
trying to take over the world, not trying to put sports out of business. I'm just trying to do those 3 things.
So I've been hearing, rumors on the range and stuff of like, oh, there's, changes PractiScore coming. It's going to be this and this and this, and it's nice to get that stuff from the guys that are in the trenches working on it. So
yeah,
it's it sounds like you guys have like a lot of cool stuff coming up with PractiScore.
I think there's an amazing amount of stuff coming up. It's really coming together. But again, it's just based on what we need, right?
Right.
What the match directors need.
And so, last little topic I want to go down is, Russell, you kind of alluded to it a little bit with people following at home on the website and everything. But do you see this as being like, I've had a lot of people hit me up and say like, oh, we need a 3-gun fantasy league or something like that. Do you see the stats being to that level?
I've been talking about this for a few weeks, and basically we got a lot of data. We have a huge amount of data, which can
we actually
statistics.
have companies approaching us now about data.
Okay.
And which just surprised me. I never really thought about it, but apparently that's potentially valuable. And I have no idea. Certainly not going to disclose anything personal.
Sure.
But I'm willing to talk to people. Like I have talked to like sports. Like sometimes USPSA will call me and say, hey, how many PCC shooters we got?
Yeah, general,
okay.
like
general
so
data, statistics,
data,
not personal data.
Right.
Aggregated, anonymized stuff I'm pretty open to for people that have a valid use for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Russ.
I was just going to say, along those lines with data, that's what pretty much baseball is, right? I mean, people who follow baseball follow data on baseball, right?
Right.
And fantasy leagues, and I just got one word for you, and I probably shouldn't say it, and maybe you can edit out later if it's a dirty word, but gambling.
Yeah, I have.
It's not a dirty word at all.
From almost my first day on the range, I said, this sport isn't going anywhere until you can bet on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually one of the things I want to do with PractiScore. I want to provide a way to handicap.
Make book.
I want you to tell Russell how many seconds he's got to give you on this next stage for lunch, and have you guys both be confident that it's a good bet.
If you want folks to watch it and get into it, like fan base, you got to give the fans a stake in it.
Well, I mean, I've never really played too many rounds of golf with other people where there wasn't some money on the table.
Yeah, for sure.
Skins or shot lunch based on who's going to buy lunch at the turn. Well, okay, my uncle and I used to have a bet every time we played. I'd have to give him one shot a hole and 2 shots on any hole that he chose. right? And that would determine who would buy lunch, and it made it darned interesting.
But all this is just idle talk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these kind of projects are tertiary to the first thing is keep the thing running smooth and help and doing what it needs to do to keep the matches going. The second thing is to do the things that immediately meet those three tests, right? Which is help the match, help Ken, basically is another way to look at it, although I broaden out because of the number of sports we support. I'm interested in helping match directors and clubs. Second thing is to help the shooters and the sponsors. And the third thing is to hose these companies that don't like us.
And all this is not entirely altruistic. All these goals, a lot of them go towards helping people, but it is a company. We do want to make money, and so we're going towards trying to serve the customers in a great way that also benefits us. So the ad thing is going to give the people who are using PractiScore something to see that they can also help support the people who support the sport and make everybody improve their lives. We'll make money, improve the companies, drive more business to good companies, things like that. So
the number one question I get about PractiScore is how come I do it for free? Right.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, and
I didn't want to ask because I was hoping that it would continue to be free if I didn't ask.
Yeah, it's all well. There's a PractiScore has a saying, and I mean, and I'm flat out 100%. I'll say it again. It's always been free, always will be.
It's in the app descriptions and on the homepage.
That was what was necessary to have sports and matches and clubs trust us to do this, right? If they, a lot of times people always look at stuff and say, "What would I do if I had that power?" Right? And I confess, I've got a lot of power in practice shooting. It's completely unintended, but I do, and I take that, I view that with great care. And so I've tried to explain in this discussion, the three things that I'm really trying to accomplish with PractiScore. But at some point it's grown to the point now, there's 5 people working on PractiScore. That's a lot of people, and you add up the money, that's a fair amount of money. So I have decided that it has to pay for itself at some point, somehow, but it's never going to be charged for, right? So that sort of limits how you can make money. You can make money off donations. You can make money off the sports actually supporting it, which so far ICOR does. Okay, this kind of shows where their heads are.
Really?
Yeah. ICOR came to us, support our sport, and here's some money. Yeah. Only sport to ever do that.
Let's say the name David Sergi and the board of ICOR.
Yes.
Good people.
Good dudes. Now, I'm not saying that the other sports should or shouldn't do that, but I am saying that none of them have ever offered. So I'm just listing potential ways to fund it.
Sure.
So donations, sport support, which I'd like to see, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want the strings because a lot of the sports are poorly run, and I don't even think they think they're well run. Right? So I don't think I'm saying. I think that some of them are working very hard to improve it, but I don't think they necessarily think they're well run.
Right.
Well, as soon as they buy a piece, also they want to have a say so in how we do things.
So I think I think
blessing and a curse right there.
So if I looked at how to support the clubs better, a lot of times it seems like it'd be better to keep it out of the hands of the sports. You tend to kind of muck up things that they're touching or have other things they're trying to solve. Now, so USPSA, just using an example, is the largest one. They've went through a terrible last 3 years. It's been very hard for them. I think they're on the comeback trail. But it wouldn't have been a really bad time for them to start trying to run a scoring system.
Yeah.
Right? And they have bigger fish to fry right now. But anyway, that could be a potential source of funding. The only other one left is advertising.
Right.
Right.
When you've got 100,000 eyeballs every week. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're closing in on 2 million impressions a month.
Wow.
And by the time we get done with classifieds and a few other changes, we're expecting, I don't know, you never know, but I think that when you look at user behavior on the site, I think 5 to 7 million views a month is pretty reasonable in like in the 3 to 5 month range, somewhere in there. It kind of depends, but and that's not necessarily growing the sports. That's just giving people more things to do on the site.
Right.
right? Classifieds, forums, looking at videos,
Social media.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
discussions that used to happen on Facebook happening in the context of the match.
So I'll give you one more thing that, maybe you guys are thinking about, but it's, we're talking about scratching your own itch. This is something that I've thought a lot about,
Yeah.
and people have asked me to do, but I know absolutely nothing about software or databases or anything, so I know when I should not do things, and it's a schedule. And so, this show is the 3-Gun Show. It's 3-Gun based.
Yeah.
There is a thread on Brian Enos.
Yeah, it's
and
really.
it is the stupidest way, and yes, email me. I don't care. It's the stupidest way to figure out when a match is to update a post on Brian Enos. And no one in 3-Gun cares about Brian Enos anymore. Brian Enos doesn't care about 3-Gun. As far as I can see.
I mean, as a forum.
As a forum, thank you.
Brian's a good dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's Brian Enos forums.
Yeah.
I should clarify. But it's forums are kind of going the wayside, right? And that is a terrible way to look at what matches you want for next year. First of all, you don't know when the match is going to open. You don't know when it's going to close. And you don't know where you're supposed to mail your check.
So just a calendar that represented the matches on PractiScore's, what you're talking about?
It's, something like that where you can look at, I don't know, just look at 3-Gun matches. What major, air quote major, 3-Gun matches, and I don't know how you define major. Maybe you guys already do know that.
That's intended. And in the minute I get an intern, I think can do that, that's going to happen. Or a new hire. What I want to see, well, we already have little snippets of it. If you have a PractiScore account, which is free, and you log in, you have a dashboard. It'll show you,
which is awesome, by the way,
matches that you're in and matches that you were in before that are now back.
Oh, I have not seen that part of it. I've seen the matches I'm in.
There's some holes to that. It's called matches you might be interested in.
Okay.
There's some holes in that, and it's driven by clubs that you've shot with.
Oh, okay.
So you shot with us now, so your dashboard's going to show you other stuff we're running.
That's probably why it keeps showing me like IDPA stuff.
No, we don't run IDPA.
You guys don't run IDPA?
No.
Okay, maybe one of the clubs I've shot is doing that, but
so not that there's anything wrong with
that.
Not
there's anything wrong with that, but I personally don't shoot IDPA.
Yeah,
I've never been a member, so
yeah. So that's definitely coming, and that's actually one of the things that we can do to have people spend time. We have kind of a view of a calendar view, a regional view, a kind of a near me view, and a just a pure chronological view, as well as you can register. So when we create a match, we'll give you a way as a match director to say who should be aware. We'll limit it because we don't want to just say the whole world, but what other matches have you run that you want the competitors to be aware of that? So like last year's Area 1, I would say yes, right? Or this year's Hard as Hell, I'd say yes. And then that will start to show up two ways. One is in your dashboard, but even more importantly, your phone will buzz. And you'll say, oh, hey, Dave, you might want to you want me to mark your calendar to register for Area 2?
I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
Because the competitor app will be integral to your profile on PractiScore.
Yeah, it's all going to be one
a system
thing. And so I'm with you. It's just that we're trying to do. We got this long list, but I can only bring in so many new hires, so many interns.
No, I totally hear you. Just knowing that someone else is on the same page as me is thinking there's a better way to do this rather than just like writing a note and leaving it on the corkboard.
We have years of ideas and time, just the amount of time we have to give to it. So
just on your list, and I'll prioritize.
We really want to do it. Yeah.
Hey, Dave, would you triage this for us? So just to end the funding question. So we're working to sell ads, but my requirement to the engineers working on that is that I have one absolute inviolate requirement: you do not make the results harder to use.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
They cannot screw with that for the sake of ads.
We want the ads to serve the customer.
The second thing is that the advertising can never, ever, ever reflect negatively and make the people feel bad about the person who bought the ad, which is kind of a second way to look at So if a ad from Glock screws up you looking at the results, are you happy about Glock? Or
I gotcha. That's true. That's very true.
So it has to be win-win-win. Everybody's got to win. The third thing is that we're never, ever, ever, ever going to trump a stage sponsor for one of our ads. Right?
Smart.
So
it's very smart.
And because I'm Ken Nelson, run matches, I don't want some PractiScore idiot taking getting the love from my Barry sponsorship. Barry's did that work. Barry's put the bullets on the prize table. That's what I want.
Yeah, they're the reason the customer's looking at it.
So that's kind of the benefit of having a practical shooter that runs a practical club that runs a software company.
Sure, you guys are in the middle of it.
Doing PractiScore, that we kind of dance at all three parts of it. And so, there's going to be ads. There has to be. I can't figure out this. Donations don't add up to enough. Sports don't seem to be particularly interested in contributing. They sure like to call up with ideas, which is fine.
We have good relationships.
We have great relationships with them.
Sure.
And I work very hard at it. I don't mean to sound negative. I'm probably a little tired. We have great relationships with them.
I must be tired too, because that didn't sound negative at all.
Okay, I just wanted to.
just
I just wanted to stress that
straightforward,
that we're not tying us doing things for them to money. We do things because the clubs need it.
Sure. Yeah, he's not extorting them by way of saying all this.
It would never cross my mind too often. But they worry about that. I mean, they worry that if Ken has scores and Ken gets mad at him, what happens?
Somebody could do some bad stuff.
And I don't want to appear appear like I'm some kind of Christ-like figure that's like perfect and doesn't get angry. But I know where my bread's buttered, right?
Yeah.
And I don't help clubs by having a fight with IDPA. I don't help clubs by having a fight with Riga Nation. We have great relationships with them. Where there's friction is often because they don't necessarily understand software, they don't understand the system. So a lot of times they want to do something a certain way when it's like already there. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, just do it this way. And then we end up discussing. Sometimes we add it their way just because it makes sense. Sometimes they realize, oh, it's there.
Sure.
So it's just normal friction. There's not any, aggravated friction between any of the sports. It's all very good. But the money part we got to figure out at some point. And right now the current plan is taking money from Facebook and YouTube.
Do what they do better than them.
For our audience.
Which is perfect, because they don't deserve it anyway, because they don't like us.
It couldn't pick a better company to screw.
Exactly. Well, guys, we're going on over an hour and a half here, so I want to I'm hungry, I'll be honest.
No, that's cool.
I want to give you an opportunity for final thought here. We've covered a lot of ground, and I think I have a better understanding of PractiScore than I ever have before, and it's pretty cool to see that you guys have all these amazing ideas and everything. But let's get a final thought here and something to leave the audience with. And Russell, we'll start with you.
I love being a part of this community. I have had the time of my life working with all these match directors and meeting all these competitors, and they truly have become my friends. And the product that we build, I want to serve them. I honestly do. I'm not just spouting platitudes here. I really do care. I really do want this to be the best it can be for them. It reflects on me, and I want it to make what they do better, to help them out. And I have thoroughly enjoyed all the things that I've done this year in the shooting community. I just love it. And PractiScore honestly is a joy to be the developer for my part of it. I just love it. Every aspect of it. I love working with the people. I like being an engineer. I'm the kind of person who can stare at screens full of data and not lose it and work it out and helping people. We need the feedback. We want to work with everybody. If I could, just sum it up that way, it's about all these relationships. We do like the people in the end. I mean, we're a business. We want to make money. We want to serve the people. But I just had the time of my life. I really like doing this. I like the community. I like the shooting sports.
I love that, man, and it's great to know that there's guys like you out there that are passionate about multiple things that all come together and are working to make life easier for all of us guys like me who know nothing about that. So thank you very much for what you do. Ken, how about yourself? Final thought.
Well, I certainly echo Russ's sentiments about the people in this community. I have a lot of friends in town that aren't practical shooters. I have a lot of friends around the country, but the bulk of my friends are practical shooters. So when I do PractiScore, I'm helping them. That makes me feel really good. And I like the way that I feel good when they send me a note and say, "Hey Ken, I just want to let you know that I saw a movie today. I saw a movie on Saturday night because of PractiScore." I mean, I get these kind of notes.
Yeah, get to play with your kids instead of screwing with Excel.
Yeah, exactly. I guess if I wanted to leave any final thoughts with the listeners about PractiScore is it's entirely about helping first clubs, second shooters, and third sports. Everything we do is intended to help. In no way will we ever, it's kind of like the first rule of doctoring. First, do no harm.
Do no harm, yeah.
PractiScore is entirely devoted to ensuring that there's never any harm to our friends. I'm friends with all the leaders of all the sports. I'm friends with most of the people that run the big matches in the country. Like go to dinner, happy their daughter got married, friends.
Handshakes and hugs when we see these people.
It's truly a labor of love. And as we try to migrate to where it's something that can pay Russ's bills and pay Brian's bills and Eugene's bills, and we call him Nilla. What the heck's his real name?
Blake.
I don't know. I'm terrible. I'm a bad person, Russ.
He's just an intern. He'll get a real name when he's on staff.
He's worked here for like 7 months. I don't know his real name. Nilla's just a really good name, good nickname.
Yeah, it's a great nickname.
One of the things I do at work is I always look for a way to give somebody a nickname. So sometimes it can't, like Russell's Russell, but Nilla's Nilla. But anyway, as we go to that, always know that we're trying to do good. And if sometimes we step on our foot and it ends up not being good, we'll fix it, and it was not on purpose. But it's always about love of the game, love of the sport, love of the clubs, and that's it. So that's the message I'd leave.
Awesome.
Is that a decent message?
I think that's a great message. Gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you. First of all, putting on this great match, hard as hell, that we just finished here, and sticking with me after probably what. I don't even know. What did you guys put in, like 2 weeks of 14-hour days to make this match happen? No, not you guys.
Russ phoned it in. He showed up. Are we shooting yet? But I have to say, I had shoulder surgery right before this match, so my staff did the bulk of the work, and I literally did not see the stages until conceptually, I was involved, but until I was there to punch him down as range master, I didn't see him. Well, so my guys did a fantastic job of taking the load on this.
Hats off to your staff for sure, and thank you, gentlemen, for sticking with me long after everyone has gone and the bonfire has fizzled out. Well, talking with me about PractiScore.
I just want to send some love back to you. I think that you're doing a very good job. I enjoy your podcast. I think you're a terrific interviewer, and you're the kind of guy we need talking about our sport. So good on you too.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. Well, so let's all get a group hug in after we put the microphones down.
Hey, Russ, that's too close.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Ken and Russell. Like I said before the interview, these guys are up to a ton of great things at PractiScore, and I appreciate all the hard work they're doing because it definitely makes my life easier. And I can't wait until there's a single consolidated place to look for a match calendar. Plus, betting might be kind of fun too. Links to everything we talked about here can be found at 3gunshow.com/episode 103. And again, check out 3gunshow.com/support before you shop at Brownells, Amazon, Cabela's, and Optics Planet. We earn a small commission on what you buy at no additional cost to you, and your purchase will help keep the show running. Now, I have another review to read from iTunes here, and I read each review, and I'll definitely read yours on the show. This one is from Matt Revo Guy Hoffman, and Matt says, a must-listen, 5 stars. Even if you're not a 3-gunner, there is great info for any of the shooting sports. The principles from some of the best shooters out there span any discipline. I'm a competition revolver shooter and resisted 3-gun. You just can't do it all. After listening to the Jerry Mitchellek interview, I decided to listen to several others, and I got the bug. I came for Jerry, and I stayed for Dave. Listen. Well, thanks, Matt. That's a high compliment, man, and I totally appreciate that, and I'm glad to have your ears. Thanks for being with us. And for everyone else, thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll catch you in the next episode.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.